What's the best time for the horse? It's when it's heading toward spring or summer. The grass is longer in the fields, and that's when I enjoy riding the most there. After that, we make the transition to the racetrack. So we keep it varied, or we head out onto the field, allowing the horse to experience something different and ensuring that things don't become too monotonous. And you're not just riding around in the arena, but also challenging the horse's mind a bit, so you can keep it motivated, curious, and fully engaged in the daily training routine and various exercises. When working with young horses, you start with basic, simple exercises and then slowly introduce more challenging tasks, carefully testing their limits to see how far they can go. The goal is to achieve perfect suppleness and, over time, develop a strong, reliable and consistent jump in the long run. So here we have Diakito. He's a 6-year-old gelding. He's only been in my stable for 2.5 weeks. A very promising horse, and I'm excited to see what the day has in store for us today. We're still in the getting to know each other phase. I've ridden a tournament with him, but he's still quite inexperienced at this point. But so far, he's been very cooperative, and above all, he's really balanced in everything. What's basically most important to me, honestly, I believe every horse is also a little different every day. And that always depends on the situation. I'd say if he's feeling too energetic, you might end up working a bit longer. But what's important is that they first have fun with it at home, that it's not essentially work, but it should be a hobby. And the playful aspect must not be lost in the process. I always try to practice what I need in the parkour, like speed changes, forward, backward, and what's required over a distance. Then I include a turn, once backward, once forward. It's important not to always ride the same distance, because I can't do that in the course either. So that the horses also learn to handle different distances, essentially dealing with small challenges. Yes, certainly the mix, meaning that you always approach the point and challenge the horse in a positive way, but just not pushing past the limit, and then stepping back again, and then gently approaching the point once more, always maintaining a careful balance and awareness throughout the process, so that the horse actually gets a bit of adrenaline now and then, and sometimes not, in order to really train it for competition. It's harder at home than at a competition, as the atmosphere and surroundings matter so much. That's why horses are naturally more alert and active. The real challenge lies in keeping them motivated at home in a way that maintains their physical fitness, but in a light and easy manner, ensuring you don't overdo it. Quick summary. Overall, it wasn't bad at all. I made sure to introduce some variation in pace throughout both of the rounds. Thirdly, I did it a bit more in this round to check if he does it too, to kind of test the control, the forward-backward movement. So it basically becomes a bit more natural and fluid. Started a bit more with the gallop, tried to keep a good rhythm. Yes, basically he did that well. Had a straight line, a curved line, once from the right, once from the left. So training purpose fulfilled today. So here we have 4 George. 4 George is an 8-year-old stallion by 4 Pleasure out of Noldus Kuchengul. He's already competed in a few young horse tournaments, placing in the 1 m 40 classes. The final fine-tuning was a bit lacking because in the course he really developed a lot of ambition, like mom and dad used to, and that's what we're trying to work on a bit today. So, bridle. Mexican, English, or Hanoverian. I also like riding with Hanoverian because then I find it much more comfortable for turns. And of course, some horses just respond differently. Some horses resist more with their mouths, while others don't. Some play around with their tongues, which I believe doesn't make the experience more comfortable for either the horse or the rider. And over the years, you naturally tend to develop your own preferences when it comes to bits. And it's important that with minimal effort, you achieve good results. I have here 2 poles in a straight line, and then on the left, 1 slightly higher pole on a curved line, to introduce a bit of variety into the overall layout. The hardest part is to have a horse truly straight. It's always easier to ride in the curve, but to have a horse truly straight between hand and leg is, in my opinion, the most important thing. Then on the straight, work on forward and back a lot. What's important to me is you can see there are a lot of jumps on this course. I rarely jump the same jump every single time. The course is designed in a way that allows me to start entering it relatively early, as the rhythm and the forward-backward movement are really crucial for my approach. Often with many horses, you tend to lose a bit of control towards the end of the course. I try to practice that at home with a slightly longer course and also by having many different jumps and not always the same ones. So I always try to kind of adapt to the situation, aim to avoid as many flying changes as possible, and then I set up the jumps accordingly, making sure they suit the flow. So I always have the option to ride left or right around the first jumps and approach from either side. This way I stay flexible and make sure I'm not just repeating the same pattern every time. It keeps things dynamic and adaptable. When a horse tends to fall left into the turn, I try to ride the jump in a way that it already anticipates it. It usually goes left, but I still make a point to ride it right so they can't always predict what's coming next, because that often doesn't make things any easier throughout the actual course itself. If I notice after 5 or 6 jumps that the first line was rubbish, I stop earlier in the course and then make sure to ride the line again, carefully adjusting it to get it right this time around and improve the flow, without having to do too many jumps with the horse at this point. It's just very important to me that a stallion is also balanced in terms of his head. I've had quite a number of stallions that were overly excited and high-strung right from the very beginning. And in those cases, the only thing that really helps for me is when they spend a lot of time out on the pasture. That's Priam, who was just in Shanghai, and he's going to have a bit of a laid-back day today, be able to relax a little, but simply moved his body. And with the bridle, well, Priam has a very big head, and since the bridle is used for several different horses, I first need to adjust it a bit so that it fits properly. I always do it myself, so I know how the bridle is fastened. And then I can't blame the caretakers later if it doesn't sit right.
So that is my fault. And that's simply the first contact with the horse. The personal connection is just as crucial as finding the right saddle for the ride. You know, it's all about that initial bond and trust. The bridle also needs to be buckled correctly. I also prefer to wear riding pants that fit properly. If it's too big and I'm riding around on it, that's really no fun for me. With the bit or the bridle, I think it's the same. Not just with the bridle, but also with the saddle or the whole equipment, that the horses feel comfy, nothing pinches, is too tight or crooked. He is 14 now, and even though it might look easy, it takes an incredibly long time, I believe, before a horse can walk almost without any guidance on its own feet, and especially manage to walk in a straight line. It doesn't start to sway, doesn't go too fast, doesn't go too slow, and you can basically guide the horse with minimal aids, or let's say just with gentle pressure from your calves, and also manage the pace a little bit more effectively. And even though he doesn't look like it, he's a very sensitive horse in every way, but he's kind of like a little baby, I'd say. In the end, the gas and brake in the course, to put it simply, have to work. And the more stable a horse is and the more it can carry itself, the easier it ultimately becomes for the rider to handle and guide it effectively. And the goal is, when a spectator looks on from the outside, that they basically don't see any aids and it still looks easy and relaxed. And that's just, as a pair, horse and rider, you've got to grow together over the years naturally. A lot of it, I think, comes from intuition. It's also not crucial whether the horse has its head down or up. First of all, it's important that the horse feels happy and fully content. And then, of course, you try using certain aids to get the horse to stretch out or shorten its frame as the situation requires. Transitions in tempo, as well as walk, trot, canter, especially not forgetting the basic foundation. It's very tempting when riding to just canter a lot. But in my opinion, the most demanding aspect for a horse is maintaining a correct walk and a proper trot consistently over time. and accordingly I try to trot a lot and also ride at a walk. What I often practice as well, that I myself lead the horses, or that they simply have the trust that they will stay with me. Yesterday I was practicing with a horse. It stopped up there and then ran off in the opposite direction. I had to go back over the field. What I really appreciate now, just like in this moment, is that he lets me do all this in peace. He doesn't push me away. So a little bit, just like with small children, a touch of culture can't hurt either. But it's really just a lot of routine work involved. That's precisely why I always take the bridle off myself. Making sure I also have that closeness to the horse, you know? No. Stop it.
It's the only one with the blue halter being bigger than the black ones. I don't really need to tie them down anymore. You can train and practice everything, but somewhere in your mind, you still have to keep that focus firmly in place. You know what I mean? It's just how it is, and it's something you can't ignore no matter how much you prepare. Stay flexible. You can walk through the course and plan everything out carefully, but in the end, things usually turn out a bit different than you anticipated. So riding in general keeps you young anyway, because there's always something new coming up and usually something unexpected, especially since you're working with a living being. And that's also what makes the sport so appealing.